To start this episode, I want to go to the Group Policy Management Console. So in my search, I can either type here Group Policy Management to open this, or another way I could go to the group policy is to open Server Manager, and then I will go to Tools, and then I can go to Group Policy Management. So I will click on Group Policy Management, and this is the Group Policy Management window. If you look on your left-hand side, there is the forest, and then below that, it has the domain, it has the site, it has Group Policy Modeling, and it has Group Policy Results. So I want to go to the domains, so I will expand the domain. So when I expand this domain, I see these organization units. So I will open Active Directory users and computers because I want to show you something in Active Directory users and computer. So I will just bring the Active Directory user and computer to this side. So this is the same domain that we have in Active Directory users and computer. Is what we see also in the Group Policy Management Console. If you expand this, you see these organization unit. I created this organization unit called KLA. And then these are the built-in folders. Okay. So when I open this, I have my KLA domain computers. So all the domain computers will be in here. And then also all of my domain users will be in here. Just for the purpose of this video, I just created one organization unit for domain computers, as well as another organization unit for domain users. Your environment may not be set up like this in the workplace, but it doesn't really matter how it is structured. You just need to have a structure, okay? So these organization units that are here, like the KLA and then the domain controller, they all show up in the Group Policy Management. So when you come to the Group Policy Management Console, the main thing you want to pay attention here to is what we call Group Policy Objects. So the Group Policy Objects is a folder here that will contain all of the group policies that you will create. So if I expand this, by default, there are two group policies objects that are here. You have your default domain controller policy, which is by default apply to or link to the domain controller organization unit. So if I expand the domain controller organization unit, I see that the default domain controller policy is linked to it. And you will notice that when it is linked or assigned to a particular organization unit, it will have the little arrow at the bottom left. And then we have the default domain policy. So the default domain policy is assigned to or linked to the domain. So when you look at the domain, KLA.org, this is the default domain policy. When I click on the default domain policy, it tells me you have selected a link to a group policy object. So a link to a group policy object is just the group policy object that has been assigned. So that assignment is called a link. Okay? So deleting the link does not delete the group policy object, but deleting the group policy object will automatically delete the link. Okay? So when it comes to creating a group policy object, we can either right-click on the group policy objects and say new to create a new group policy object, or we could come to the organization unit. Let's say we want to create a group policy that will be assigned to domain users. So I can just come to this KLA domain user. I can right click on it and say create a a group policy object in this domain and link it here. So when I do this method, it creates the group policy object and it links it to the organization unit. Whereas when I create it within the group policy objects, it only creates it in the group policy object. I will later have to come and link it to the particular organization unit I want to link it to. So sometimes you could be creating a policy and you are not sure where you're going to link it, or you just want to just create it and link it right away. So in this first video, I'm creating a group policy object that will be used to deploy a picture to all of the computers as the wallpaper. So I'm going to create that group policy object on the group policy object and folder here, and then link it later. In the next video, I will create a group policy object to install Notepad++. In that video, I will create the group policy object on the computer organization unit and link it. So that way, when you watch both videos, you will have an experience with how to do both of them. So without further ado, I will come to the group policy object folder. I will just right click on it. I will say new. Then I want to give the group policy object a name. It's good to name your group policy object with a descriptive name that allows you to know what the policy is about just by looking at the name. So because this is going to be for desktop wallpaper, so I can just say, I can then give the name to a desktop wallpaper. And now I click on OK. So right now I have created the group policy object. Okay. The next thing I want to do here is to edit this group policy object. But before I do that, I will come to my File Explorer and I'm going to go to my download folder. I have two files here. I have the picture that I want to use for my desktop background. So this is the picture. And then in the next video, as I mentioned earlier on, I will use group policy to deploy Notepad++. So this is the setup for Notepad++. So what I want to do here right now is to highlight both of them. I will cut. We need to put these files on a shared location on the server. So I'm just going to come in the search and open run on this domain controller. And I will use what is referred to as the UNC, or Universal Naming Convention, which is simply this 2 backslash. So I will just backspace this and put backslash. This is UNC, and then you put either the IP address of the server or the host name. So my server is called DC01. And I'll click on OK, and it's going to open the network location for my DC01. So by default, we have these two folders that are shared. These two folders are related to Active Directory domain services. So we have the net logon and we have the sysvol. So I will just go into one of them. So I will just go into the net logon, for example. And then what I would do here is to just right click here and say paste. So paste the two files that I will use in the two videos. So because that has been done, I will just close this document. Now I will right click on the group policy object and say edit. When the group policy management editor opens, there are two options. So we have computer configuration and then we have user configuration. So what I want to do is I want to have this wallpaper for every user that logs in, right? And so I will come to user configuration. If it is something that I want on every computer, then I'll go to computer configuration. So I will come to user configuration, and then under there are two folders called policies and preferences. So I'm just going to expand the policy one. I will stretch this out a little bit. I will come to this folder called administrative template. So I will expand this. I will just drag this back a little bit. And then under administrative templates, I have desktop. So I will expand desktop. And under A, I also have a second desktop. So I will click the second desktop. And then now it will show me the different policies that are for desktop. So the policy I want to come to is desktop wallpaper. So I will double click this policy and then we'll open. And we can see that this policy is not configured. So I'm going to click enable so that I can enable this policy. Now, when you look on a wallpaper name, it tells you that you can either point to a file that is on the local path, which is on the server, or you can point to a network location by using the UNC path. If you use this local path, the wallpaper will only exist on the server, but then the computer, as they try to use the picture to change their wallpaper, they wouldn't be able to do it because they will go to their drive C, their Windows folder, and they will look for web. If that folder exists, then they'll go to a folder called wallpaper, and they will try to find this picture, for example, in this example called home.jpg to use it. But because the picture doesn't exist on those computers, they will not have the picture for the wallpaper. So we want to use a network location. Okay. So when we come back to where we share, we see that /DC01/net logon. So I will right click this path and I will copy it and I will come back to my group policy and I will put it in here. I will paste because we can see that we are following the second example, which is using a UNC path, and the UNC path will always start with // and then the name of the server or the IP address of the server /share/ and then the name of the file. So it's just giving an example. This is if we created a folder called share, then the picture will be in that folder. So right now I put this path. So now I need to put a single / and then I need to go back and then get the name of the picture. Usually by default, these files will not have an extension to them. It wouldn't be .jpg or .msi. You wouldn't see it by default because when you come to view, options, change folder, I'll come to view. On a view, I'll just say restore default. I say apply and OK. So by default, these two files will be like this without an extension. But when you look at on a type, you know that this picture is anyway .jpg. In order to put the extension there, you can come to view and then you go to options and then you click on change folder and search options. Then you come to view, and then what you want to do is to say where you have had extension for known files type, just uncheck this one and apply and OK, and now you'll see the extension. So what I'll do, I will click in here and then press Ctrl A to select all, and I'll use Ctrl C to copy. Then I'll go to my group policy editor, and then right in here I will paste the name of the file. And then how do I want the wallpaper? Do I want it to be center? I will just say fill so that you can fill the entire screen. So I will say apply and OK. And then I will close the editor. So I'll come back to my group policy management console. So I have modified this group policy object. The next thing I want to do here is to assign this group policy object to all domain users. So again, I will just go to the Active Directory users and computers. I will click on domain user. I have created one user in here called Wilfred Delamy. If you don't know how to create organization unit, if you have no idea how to create a group, or if you have no idea how to create a user, I've already created a video about that. I will make sure to leave a link to that video in the YouTube card as well as in the video description down below. The reason why I'm showing you Active Directory users and computers, I just want you to see that I have one user in this folder already. So again, I will go back here, and then now I will go to the user folder and then right click on it and say link an existing GPO. So I will click this, and then this is the GPO, if you remember, that we created, called desktop wallpaper. So I will click that and click on OK. So when I do that and expand the KLA domain user, you see now that below it, it has the desktop wallpaper with the little arrow. So I have linked this wallpaper, or I have assigned this group policy object to this organization unit called KLA domain users. So let's say if I right click on the link and then I say delete, it tells me, do you want to delete the link? This will not delete the group policy object itself. So I'll click cancel. So I wanted you to see that by deleting the link will not delete the group policy object. It is by deleting the group policy object that the link will be automatically removed as well. So the next thing is, with that user, I need to log out and log back in with the user. So I'm going to go to my Windows computer. So I will log in. So I can click in the search and go to the command prompt. To know who is logging, I can say, who am I? It will tell me I'm logging with W. Delamy. Or on the Windows 10, I can press Control, Shift, and Escape. It's going to open the task manager. And then I can press More Details. And I can say Users. And it will tell me I'm currently logged in with my user account. This is the user I created in Active Directory users and computers. So I'm just going to close this, and then in the search, I can search for run, and then I can open that. And what I'm going to do is type in gp update /force. So it's going to update and force it to update. So I'll click on OK. So I made a mistake with the update. Update is UP. Yeah. So I will click on OK. And it's going to update the policy. So I'm going to see if it's going to apply the wallpaper. So this is a way to manually get it to update itself. So it didn't work. So what I can do is just to log out and log back in, and then we should be in good shape. So on the client computer, the wallpaper hasn't come yet. So I'll just look at it. Yeah. Oh, so right here it shows the wallpaper, but it didn't take effect. So we want to see if on the client computer we have even access to that. So I'll put this /DC01. I'll just open this, double click here and see. Okay, let me see if I can just open it. Okay, so I can open the picture. So when you look at the personalization, you notice that it's the current picture, but just that it's not currently showing. So you can come to the command line. Say GP results. Let me see, / question mark, and put a question mark to see what are the different slashes we can use with the and GP result. So we can put arrow for the arrow SOP summary data. So I'll press up arrow. I'll put capital arrow. Let's generate the report and see. I'll just maximize this and see how the policy is being applied. So I'm logging with David Delamy on this client computer. And yeah, so the apply group policy object is the desktop wallpaper. And so the one that I apply is the wallpaper, which is what we apply. And then the volume group policy will not apply because they will filter out local group policy. Okay. Yeah, so it's actually apply because when we go to desktop, we can see it, but it's not showing because of the Windows activation. So we'll say activate now. It gave an error. Okay, so I just changed the resolution and then kind of trigger the wallpaper. But normally it's just supposed to show without us having to try to trigger it. But I think it has to do with the fact that the Windows is not active. We are using Windows as a trial. So that's why. But anyway, so now we see that the wallpaper has changed based on our group policy object that we created, edited, and applied to the user folder. So every user that will log into their computer on your network will have this wallpaper as their desktop background. So this brings an end to this video. In the next video, as I mentioned from the beginning of this video, I'm going to use group policy to install Notepad++. So make sure to like this video if you like it, share it with someone who will find it useful. If you have any question or any feedback, make sure to leave those in the comment section down below. But without further ado, take care and I will catch you in the very next video. Bye.